Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Welcome to the session. Hi, guys. Nice to see everybody here around this virtual table, so to speak. Well, this is a great panel and is a great opportunity for sharing a lot of experiences around AI, artificial intelligence, and the future of software development, a very hot topic. So a quick introduction so that everybody that is listening and watching can hear from each of us, and then we get into the topic of today. How does it sound?
Sounds good.
All right. Excellent. All right. So first of all, I'm Stefano Tempesta. I'm joining this session from Australia. 7 p.m. for me, so it's not too bad after all. I know someone is connecting from very early in the morning. I will get there in a moment. I lead the technology department at Atlas. Atlas Protocol is a Web3 blockchain-based startup. We are really a few people that is working into the carbon credit industry. And we're using a lot of AI technology for predicting the value of carbon and measuring carbon dioxide in soil. But we'll have a chance to talk about this and a lot of other things in the next 45 minutes together. I'd like to introduce the other subject matter experts that are joining me around this panel. Mary, over to you.
Oh, sure. Thank you, Stefano. My name is Mary Grygleski. I am currently transitioning. I was a developer advocate for the past 6 years or so, most recently at DataStax and working on their vector database, and then also a bit on this event streaming. And before that, I was at IBM as a Java developer advocate. Then prior to that, too, I was a developer for over 20 years. I'm also active with specifically too with the Java community, and then most recently too with AI Camp, so in Chicago. So that's where I am, and I'm the one who had to get up at 3 a.m. in the morning, and currently it's 4 a.m., but no problem. I just came back from Europe, so I'm still in European time zone. So very excited about this panel. Thank you. Yeah, great. And I guess Daniel, and maybe next.
Yeah, thank you, Mary. I love the AI Camp community also, so it's good to see someone else active with it. Thanks for passing that on. I'm Daniel Phiri. I do developer experience at Weaviate. So I have a background in computer science and software engineering, and I've been doing developer relations and advocacy in very different rights for about 6 years also. And at the moment, it's mostly just like leading the front and leading the cause for using vector databases in the front end and JavaScript community. So that's a lot of what I'm doing, speaking to developers here and there. So I'm very excited to be here. Last but not least, I guess I'm going to pass it on to Bobby.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Very happy to be here. I'm Bobby, and I'm joining from Bulgaria. I'm a product manager, and I've been actively working on various AI projects since 2018. I have background in software engineering as well, but I have also a few years of entrepreneurial experience. So it goes through the whole spectrum, as you can imagine. I've learned to do everything, basically. Nowadays, I'm also doing a PhD on AI, and more specifically on synthetic data, simulation models, and digital twins.
Wow.
And
Interesting.
yeah, I was just saying before we started, I was telling Daniel that for one of the projects that I'm involved in, we are actually using Weaviate. So it's a very nice coincidence to be here together.
Oh, indeed. We absolutely have to talk about that post the session. I don't have to take up that space, but it's pretty cool, synthetic data.
Yeah. It's more specifically, my dissertation topic is on training models on generated data and synthetic data, and what are the opportunities there.
Cool.
We are all very impressed, Bobby.
Thank you.
Congratulations, and good luck, yes, with completing your PhD. So look, this panel is really an open conversation. Now, this disclaimer to everybody that's watching here: we didn't rehearse. We are not improvising, because obviously, we have prepared the topic, but we haven't spent days and days in preparing these to be perfect by the minute. So forgive us if sometimes we sound like we're going a little bit too long or maybe too short on some topic, but we are really sharing our experience out of our heart and our brain in some way, right? So but look, let's go this way. As in, we have a few questions that we would like to ask to the four of us, so like really open questions, but also to the audience out there. So use the tool to ask questions anytime. We'll jump on the question straight away, and we will have a proper Q&A at the end of the session. Don't be shy. This is a panel for the 4,000 people that are watching, not just the four of us around this table. Okay, now that we have done the welcome, and thanks everybody again for being here, let's say one more time the topic of this panel: AI, artificial intelligence, and the future of software development. Can I make a little correction? Not just the future, also the present of software development. Is that right? I mean, we are all using AI every day already now. It's not just the future. It's something that currently is more than a buzzword. We passed that phase of a buzzword. You know how technology goes, right? So everybody talks about it. Very few know about it, and many just talk because they hear the buzzword, and that is fine, right? That is absolutely what we want to see in the community. Create awareness, but we are past that phase with AI. AI has been around for many years. I've been doing AI in different flavors forever. I don't remember. I was too young when I started out of uni, so it's really a lot of time. And the opportunity here is to build something that, yes, is for the future, but is already happening today. So just a quick question to everybody here. How are you using AI technology in your current job, in your organization? But just besides the how you're using, I'm more interested in some way. More important is why are you using? Which value is AI technology bringing to you?
I would love to go first if you don't mind.
Go for it.
I really like how you said that, Stefano. Like, not just the future of AI development, but the present. And also how you just said we've really got over this period where people think AI is something that is being hyped. I think we've got to the point where there's actual products that are being built that are really helping people make their applications better. And I think there's a lot of really interesting things, and we'll definitely get to that. To start with answering your question specifically, how I particularly use AI, I think the most obvious being in software engineering is helping me write code, right? We all use code editors and assistants, and I think co-pilots have really shaken up how developers interact with IDEs and build applications. I think that's been a really big difference for me. A lot of the more mundane tasks that filled up creating projects and creating software, I'm using AI to get rid of, basically. So that's it. I'd love to know how everyone else is doing this, or if this is something similar that they've played around with.
Sure. Yeah.
My perspective is not from so much from hands-on coding point of view, as I'm currently not really involved in hands-on development. I'm more on the managerial side and overseeing the processes. So when I talk about the future of software development in the context of AI, to be more about overall how software projects will be evolving and how the various roles in these projects also change. And this is something that I would like to throw in here, that it's not just that we are getting more productive. There's also a shift in the responsibilities and how things are done within the processes of a software project. And we can even see that the established agile is kind of changing as well, the different methods.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any opinion or anything to share on that?
I think for me too, I feel I'm the same. I'm less of like consumer, looking at it from a consumer kind of perspective. Yes, I am using some ChatGPT sometimes, right? When I try to write an essay or, do even like with a call for proposals, sometimes you're like, okay, I have an idea. Let me use ChatGPT to help me to kickstart, because sometimes it's hard to write a proposal, those things. But and then as far as working with things, because I was with the product company, so we're doing producing like vector database and all that, so I have to actually understand how things work. And also too is trying to help developers to know how you can actually use the SDKs, the libraries, to work with LLMs. And so I tend to be talking more from that perspective, because very often too is like developers come to see a talk and then they will be like, well, how do I start? And what am I supposed to do? So there's actually that whole aspect too of the processing of the data flow, for example, workflow, all that stuff. I think that's also like kind of somewhat like less being talked about, because everybody is trying to do the fancy things. I'm trying to use ChatGPT to generate the stuff to see the results. At the same time, though, there are lots of processing that are happening. So, and a lot of things are still being sorted out. And to be honest with you, the more I look at it, and I have to say I'm not like by any means like a very expert in AI, because I've just always been a developer. But it does change the way how you think towards implementing. And there's just some fundamental steps of processing data is still there. But there are also kind of new ways of doing things, and how do you actually work with it to produce what you want. So I think that's also a very interesting area. And in particular, too, because I work with data streaming. So I think there's a lot of things in that aspect. To me, I think it still has to be tapped into. How do you make use of streaming to do asynchronous real-time data, for example? I think that's an exciting area, but it's just not as much research, or maybe there are research being done, but just not talked about as much. That's how I look at it right now. So
I like how each of us, is bringing a different angle of the experience. Daniel more from the DevRel, advocacy community. Bobby, you mentioned you don't do much hands-on coding, but more on the managerial side. Mary, you are more on the coding side instead. Yeah. And I do a bit of both because, yes, officially CTO, and but practically in a small startup you wear a lot of hats, so you get really your hands dirty in coding, right? Yeah. Now our experience with AI in some ways twofold, and I'd like to share very, very briefly. One is quality and security, improving quality and security, and I'll tell you why we're doing this with the use of AI. Think of an antivirus. An antivirus works on detecting some imprints, some fingerprints of code that is at the end a virus or Trojan or whatever that is. And those viruses are developed with very common and known patterns, so they are easy to recognize. The same is for bugs in software. There is an organization called OWASP, probably most of us that work in web development know it, OWASP, that identifies the top 10 threats or vulnerabilities in web applications. And every year they refresh this list, because every year there is something new, something a bit that comes up as a new threat. Now, this top 10 over the years has been changing a little bit, but there are a few that never change, which, I don't know, blows my mind. Something like SQL injection. I mean, we've been talking about SQL injection for 20 years, so we know how to fix it. And people still keep on doing the same mistakes over and over again. So this SQL injection or session hijacking or impersonation, social engineering, they are always in the top 10. Are we learning anything or what? So now, so that actually means that these are common known issues, bugs in the software that can be easily detected. So when something is repeatable, is perfect for AI. When something is a bit new, then you need to use your human brain, right? Because AI, if not trained, cannot detect something that happens for the first time. But something that has produced years and years of historical data is perfect for anomaly detection, machine learning, right? We know that. So we are using AI technology exactly for that. Run static code analysis and dynamic runtime execution of the code, because you can get these bugs that are called in the static code, directly in the code, in the source code, but also you can get for memory allocation or I/O, input/output, or for integration with APIs, especially SQL injection or APIs without proper password protection or token protection. They are very, very common mistakes, and they can be easily detected. So AI can definitely improve quality and security of your software. Highly recommended to try to give a chance to AI, not only as a way to co-pilot your development. Daniel, you mentioned Copilot, absolutely. That is a way to produce good code, but also in a way to respond to the code that has already been produced. Even the code that AI itself has produced. You have no guarantee that Copilot is not going to produce something that may contain some vulnerability. And why is that? Well, you are a data scientist by background, right? As you mentioned. So if we've been training these AI models used by Copilot on source code that for the last 10 years has produced the top 10 vulnerabilities of OWASP and never change, very likely in the source code that is being used for training, there are vulnerabilities.
Well, I really like where this is going, particularly because I know Bobby does synthetic data. But before I ask on that, I just want to add, like, I really like what you mentioned there. It really builds on what Mary said about these use cases outside of, like the consumption or in a consumer sort of perspective. And I think the beauty of AI that I see and how it's going to change the way we do things is and this is a realization that just came up. It really democratizes a lot of access to really high quality tools. So I just gave a talk recently about search in general. And if we think 20 years back, the idea of searching, the way a company like Google introduced it, was just mind-blowing, right? This is something that not a lot of people had access to. And I don't know if you saw any of the announcements that were made last week from some of these big AI vendors. They were really interesting models. And I think this advent of AI coming close and being in the center, or like the forefront of technology and how we're building, is also democratizing access to some really powerful functionality. When you think of things like multimodality or classification, these are things that are flashy, and you might use it in ChatGPT, but like Mary said, this is extremely important for something like streaming, or it could be extremely relevant for a use case like security, or what's the word of this, the dependencies when there's a security problem. What's the name for that? The word has gone, I'm blanking. But basically any sort of security fixes that you want to keep tabs on, or a use case like search. Like, it was extremely difficult to have these multimodal searches and experiences, but with a lot of these models that are open, it's much more approachable, it's democratized, and much more accessible for developers to build really interesting things. into their applications. So I absolutely agree. I love that you mentioned that.
Yeah.
And when we talk about the future of AI, I think there are at least two main important directions that we can look at. And one is starting from right now, from the present, how is the developer's job changing, right? And that's from automating to recognizing patterns that you wouldn't, and using various algorithms to assist with even vulnerability identification. But then the other path would be the idea that going forward, maybe not from now, but very soon, artificial intelligence will be so integral will be such an integral part of software development processes and overall within the whole effort of producing software that will have very big shifts in even how software is developed. And just to give you another maybe topic for discussion and to think about, recently I read somewhere that at the moment we have mobile applications, for example, that are trying to solve a particular problem, like and fit a specific use case. So most mobile applications try to do that, right? And while trying to fix a specific use case or working on a specific use case, they try to cater to as many users as possible. Going forward, not immediately, but in the future, we'll have such a shift in this field that we won't have mobile applications for everyone. We'll have a mobile application for each person, solving each of the use cases of that person that person would be interested in. And that doesn't have to be a fixed mobile application. It will be something like an AI agent that the moment you have a problem or you have a question, you have a use case that you need to be worked on, you work in assistance with your AI agent. There will be a mobile application generated in the back, and then it will solve the user's use case. And here we are not even talking about a developer. It could be anyone. It will solve the user's use case, and it doesn't even have to continue existing. It can be just scrapped from now on, if it's a one-time use case, for example. So it won't be anymore a matter of having marketplaces with mobile applications or any kind of application, actually, trying to be to attract as many users as possible, but it will be user first, and then the AI assistant or agent generates the solution to the user's use case or problem. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I have a couple. Sorry to burst forward.
No, go for it.
When we think about the future of AI and when we think about technologies in general, and this is an open question, there's two types of technologies. There's the internet as a technology or a group of technologies that work together. Do you think AI will be more of an FTP type of technology where it's really running in the background, keeping a lot of things running, or it's sort of like the idea of an operating system type of technology where it's at the forefront of the way we do a lot of things, like, is this something a lot of people pay attention to and actively, work with, or is this something that will like keep a lot of things running in the background? I'd love to know what you all think the future holds.
Yeah, I like where we are going with this discussion, because even for me, coming from a perspective of software design and architecture, all of these things, which is different, right? Again, from like consumer side, but I think there's just many ways of how you can implement something. And to me, I think it almost seems like, yes, we need to identify all the steps, maybe workflow, and then abstract them all out. And kind of essentially too, I think that idea of the agent, maybe the agent is just responsible for certain things in certain layers of this software. And I can see how there's common services being used, and then there are service layer or something. And then just the different layers that we can build upon, that it can actually be applied to a mobile app and be applied to a regular desktop app or something, and different ways of interacting. But I think it's definitely, from a development point of view, it's kind of interesting. And to me, I also feel AI would be most useful, especially with, let's say, some lower level type of implementations. There are libraries and things like that. As developer, maybe we're less concerned with all the nitty gritty of, well, how do I write a sort routine and all of these things? And because it's already, you can just ask AI, I know what I need, but I don't want to deal with all the details. Not that it's not interesting, but it's time consuming. So some of these small little things can be actually done easily by AI. It's kind of more robotic and kind of do some of these mechanical stuff. So we can, as developers, we probably are moving more towards the higher layer of providing some value, and knowing what to use will be, ideally too, would be the AI to decide, okay, I'm not sure what sort routine I need to use. Let me ask the AI. I need to do something. Should I use a sort, bubble sort? Should I use a whatever other sort, or something like that, right? So I think from a development point of view, I think we'll take away some of these things that sometimes, I remember as the beginning developer is like, well, what do I use? There are many ways. I just can't decide, but I know what I need. So maybe that's something that AI can come in and say, you need to use this sort, you need to use that search, and whatever it is. And so then we can move to like higher level of abstraction to solve more business problem. It is what I'm kind of looking at. So
I like the idea, that this AI that is in background of our life as a developer. More as I like the metaphor of the operating system. Right? It's not an application that I run, but it's just supporting and consulting, helping, and yes, it makes my life much easier. Do I want this level of intrusion all the time? Well, we are already doing, we are already accepting. There is a lot of AI already in the operating system that we run. I don't see how it's going to be any different. It's going to be better. So, but by all means, yes, I want to feel empowered. I don't see any AI as a replacement of my capability. I see that as an enhancement of my capabilities, something that will make me more productive. So I welcome that.
Mm-hmm.
So I always hear something from in specific software and developer circles. Unpredictability is your enemy, right? And if you give this, like, abstracting away a lot means it's much lower in that architectural level, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then there's also a level of unpredictability that comes with using specific types of AI, particularly like large language models, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think there's some concerns here that we should be thinking about, or that we need to address technologically to take it to the next step and actually enable us to have this sort of system where we could trust AI,
It's a good question, actually, Daniel, because there is a level of trust at the moment that I don't feel I can put 100% into the current capabilities of AI, especially the generative AI, the one that is based on LLMs. Simply because the technology is really ramping up at the moment. It's been around for a few years, for sure, but the broad mass adoption has been in the last 12, 18 months, right? Mm-hmm. So before it can reach a capacity where the level of trust is really like, I don't have to think about it. It will take a journey. There are a couple of strategies that I'm doing at the moment to make sure that whatever I check, I produce with not the like of ChatGPT or DALL-E, also for content, for image generation. I double check in two ways. One is I work a lot on the prompt. There is a specific aspect of asking the right questions, giving the right context. Is actually a branch of the generative AI that is called prompt engineering. Also, using the word engineering, which is really manufacturing in a allegedly perfect way, something that is expected to produce the best result. No, so we engineer buildings, we engineer bridges, right? So we don't want them to fall, right? So at the same way, we do it also for the software output, that for the output, for the content that is produced by these sort of GPTs. So asking the right questions, so with the right input, is absolutely critical. There are some very good tutorials also from OpenAI on prompt engineering. So I really invite our audience, everybody that is using the like of ChatGPT and similar tools, before asking the questions, go through this checklist. There are some 5 or 6 different best practices, how to ask the right questions to produce the best output. So definitely one good thing that I recommend. And the last one, very briefly, I check the result. I question it. If something doesn't sound like I'm convinced, I will ask again, are you sure? As simple as that. And sometimes the answer I get is, oh, you're right. It's actually this other way. So that is just the way these LLMs work at the moment, right? It's based on the prediction, the statistical occurrences of words. So challenge the answer. Don't assume that whatever ChatGPT or the like says is correct. Don't trust it until we arrive to a level that trust can be given for granted. And I'm not there yet.
Well,
yeah, that's a good perspective. Sorry, Mary, go on.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just going to quickly say, I mean, prompt engineering, and I understand its functionality, but I've been kind of thinking too. I think, if for generative AI, if we're so heavily depending on prompt, in other words, it's like consuming. I'm trying to use it, but I need to know what to ask. Then it's not really true AI, because you have to know kind of, some of this intelligence that we know that the true AI, I mean, for true robot, actually, to me, right, I should be giving it some kind of fuzzy kind of prompts, and I say, I need to do this and that. Can you actually decide for me what to do? I think that actually would be the true really capability of a true AI robot. And right now we're not there yet. We need to prompt, we need to ask the right questions. So, I mean, not to say it's not good, but it's just maybe a necessary steps in our evolution towards the real true AI, like a real true robot that can actually think for us, because sometimes we just don't know what to do. We need some help. So I feel that there's just still a lot more, in the neuroscience kind of that level that needs to do about how actually we think. How do we decide what actually needs to be done? That level, I think, is still there, in what I think. So, yeah. And sorry, Bobby, you were going to say something, and I cut in front of you.
No, that was actually perfect, because I was
Yeah.
going to say a very similar thing, that it's a journey, right? So we're still very early in the journey, and things will be evolving a lot in the next few years and a couple of decades, especially.
Yeah.
And at the moment, we are in the middle, somewhere in the middle right now, of how difficult it is to enter this field. On one hand, you have tools like ChatGPT or Microsoft Copilot, or tools that are at everyone's fingers, and yet, in order to use them to their full capacity, you need to have a lot of knowledge and skills. Exactly, for example, in prompt engineering, you need to know how these tools work in order to get high quality results most of the time.
Yes.
And that's the difficult part. On one hand, millions, hundreds of millions of people are using it, and yet very small percentage know how to fully use it. So the barrier to entry there is high, really, to properly use it. There's a steep learning curve still, and that will be something that will be, I think, all of the developers behind these kind of tools aim to reduce this complexity as much as possible and as fast as possible. So I think that going forward, it will be, as I alluded kind of a couple of minutes ago, to be more agent-based, right? You won't have to do a lot of the instructions yourself. And we are starting to get there, kind of. Last week, I saw that there's now, I think, an open source tool that writes prompts for you, and they're really good.
Wow.
So soon, it won't be just you interacting with a single model, or it would not even one huge foundational model like a GPT, for example. But soon we'll have a series of models all together working in unison, where they'll be catering to the different parts of delivering you the final result. So if you just have a fuzzy sentence infused with emotion in a stressful moment, and you say, "Hey, I need help me with whatever problem I have at the moment," there will be one model that handles just your request, your interpreting what exactly you need, and translating that to some bigger model that will be doing the thinking behind, and then
an AI to assist get better result from the AI. I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and one of the I want to say that one of the differences that I think in our mindset that soon will happen is a lot of people expect we'll have a single model that will be that will be a broad AI kind of that's able to handle many different tasks, and it's not just specialized in one or two things, right? And I don't think it will be a single model. I think it will be an architecture combining a bunch of different models. And here I'm not even talking about multimodality for a single model. I'm really talking about many different models coming together in one application or multiple, doesn't matter, that work as a proper AI assistant.
Is this an evolution of the idea of the mixture of experts, which I think a lot of people are using in a lot of the models they're doing now?
Exactly, kind of, yeah.
Okay.
I managed to get this slide very quickly from one session that I've done internally to my company, these 5 prompts that I mentioned before. We don't have the time to go through all of them in detail, but I like a couple of them. Specify the scenario, assign a role. Is a bit like when you describe a user story, in your software requirements. Don't just ask a question straight away. Create the context, which is, as a software developer that is building this sort of application, I want to get this, and that. Can you produce this, right? So create a bit of context, the scenario, assign a role, a persona, because the response can be different if whoever is receiving is a data scientist or my grandma, right? So that the quality, the content will be definitely different.
Yeah. And I have to drop off, sorry, because I have a session. But Stefano, Mary, Bobby, it's been great. I'll let you finish up, and thank you everyone for watching.
Thank you.
Thanks, Daniel.
Good luck with your session, Daniel. Thanks for being part of this panel.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Take care.
And now might be a good time to invite the audience to ask questions.
Good question.
Right?
Absolutely,
so,
yeah.
If anyone has anything, we have another 5 or 6 minutes in this session, so now's a good time to shoot your questions at us.
Yes, indeed.
And Daniel mentioned this. It's not really a new thing, but it's, as everything in AI, it's been there for a while, and then suddenly everyone is talking about it. The mixture of experts, I find it very interesting how, not just on a level of how it works, but how it changes our mindset when we think about neural networks and models, right? So it's the mixture of experts, for those that don't know, I'm going to oversimplify it. It's basically you have a model, and that model, instead of having a single neural network, let's say, that tries to generate the response, it has many different smaller neural networks, each specializing in a different domain. So depending on what the user asks and what the user needs are, it tries to pick the brain of the specific neural network that specializes in that, or multiple even.
Sure. So Bobby, if you don't mind me asking, so are there already libraries or maybe software that's capable of allowing us to use multiple LLMs at this point? That was actually a question I got asked at the JCon conference too last week. Somebody asked, can I use multiple LLMs? And it's a great question. And as you said, different LLMs, they have different models of the neural network and they do things differently. So it's good to combine, right? The multiple ones, they each have their strengths. And if you can combine usage, would be really powerful. You're able to touch upon a lot more, solve a lot more cases or kind of like that. And I couldn't answer because I really did not know if there are already capability out there to allow you to work with multiple simultaneous LLMs. And do you know?
Yeah, on an architectural level, there are ways to just train or use ready trained different models in unison, just working together. But the mixture of experts is something that we can that we can see already in the Mistral AI models.
Mistral,
right? Yeah. So the latest few Mistral models, they're open source LLMs, by the way, and they're performing really good on a lot of benchmarks for an open source model. They're great. So I'm a fan. So I like open source stuff. So I recommend checking it. So they are integrating mixture of experts. So if you look at their architecture, they have a very interesting, even just on their website, announcing the models on a very high level. They explained how the prompt can be even split in different
that is cool.
parts, and the different parts are sent to the different neural networks within the bigger system and architecture. So it's very interesting, and I recommend checking it out. Yeah,
that is very
we do.
Wonderful. Yeah, thank you.
And Mistral is also a European-based company. So
that's true.
In Europe, we need more AI. To compete with the others. Yeah.
Cool. Very cool. Yeah.
Okay, we have another the last couple of minutes.
2 minutes.
Do you want to wrap up? Any final words?
Well, look, from my side, just to say thanks to all of you for really sharing this experience. And it shows how the topic of AI is hot, is really modern, and is the right time to do it. That's the invite I want to extend to the audience out there that is listening and is participating also to this big event, which starting today is going to go over the next few days. Little self-promotion. I have a session tomorrow where I'm going to talk about machine learning in the context of anti-money laundering. And again, this is a very, very good use case, how to prevent fraud with money laundering. Machine learning is there and is a technology that we are using currently to address this kind of international challenges. So yes, today in this panel, we talk about the use of AI for software development. The use cases of AI in the world are really huge, the potential is huge, and it's happening already today. Is the right time to be part of this journey.
That's right. Thank you.
Yeah, indeed. And I also have a session tomorrow, and I think, Mary, you have more than one session, right? That
Yeah, I actually have one session. I think it's like at Western or Eastern European time is like 6 after 6 something. Or was it? Yeah. Anyway, I got all my time zone all messed up. But it's a more like afternoon. That's right. And then I also will be having a panel too. I think it's more of DevOps transformation. And then I will actually be hosting Jamie, my ex-colleague Jamie, like in about an hour or so too. Jamie and 2 other speakers too. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, good luck, guys, with the rest of the event.
Yeah, thank you.
It was a pleasure. Thank you. And
I really
thanks,
enjoyed.
everybody.
Thank you. Everybody enjoy. Bye-bye.
See ya.
Bye.